What are your thoughts on?
Here's the owners a little bit too. Zeros behind your check, and with that being said, number of zeros behind your check, and
that's from y'all standpoint. The fans don't really care how much money you make. We just want to see better entertaining, more games, bro. Like she talking about zeros behind your check. That's y'all point of view. We want to see more better games. Make the product good.
And that has crossed WNBA off the list for a number of years just because of that. That's been the running joke in comments.
Candace Parker just said the one thing most WNBA veterans are too careful to voice publicly. And pay attention to her angle. She's not criticizing the players at all. She's putting the league office on the spot with a question no one in power seems able to answer. How can coaches be earning more than the stars who actually play the game? That's not how professional sports operate, and it's not how any functioning business model makes sense. The fact that she chose to say this on All the Smoke, one of the most influential basketball podcasts on the planet, signals one thing clearly. This CBA battle is about to go mainstream, and it's about to get chaotic.
Asia Wilson.
I think just continuing to get better every single year, she's added something to her game.
Caitlin Clark.
Unlimited range, I think is. I know you said, first thing. Okay, it's not a word.
No. First thing. Word. No, first thing.
No, I think she has transcended. I mean, think about that Midwest, fall in love, whatever. You think about what Iowa had, sellout crowds, things like that. It transcended to other areas as a result of her ability to connect with people, and I think that leads back to where the game is now in terms of shooting and her taking that.
Here's the part everyone needs to understand. The WNBA just rolled out a new proposal, $1 million salaries for its top stars. Sounds impressive at first glance. But there's a catch. They pulled charter flights and housing out of the deal. So now the message is what? A player making $1 million should magically cover every expense on her own, but the league has no issue with how absurd that looks. That's exactly the contradiction Candace is calling out. Because in CBA negotiations, nothing exists in isolation. Your base salary shapes your endorsement value, and your endorsement value shapes how sponsors see the entire league. And right now, the WNBA is on the verge of squandering the biggest leverage moment it has ever had.
That had that range where when she walked in the parking lot, you had to guard her.
Well, speak to Diana.
Yeah, Diana, just a competitor, I think is one of the deadliest shot makers. Clutch. No matter who was in her face, no matter what country you're in. I played against her overseas. Sue Bird said this on our podcast, like some of the craziest games were actually games nobody saw, similar to like the Redeem team or not the Dream team with the Select team. Like it was overseas. That were some of those games, and Diana was just didn't matter what.
Listen closely to what she's saying about Caitlin Clark and the idea of transcendence. It matters because these CBA negotiations are unfolding right now, in January 2025, at the exact moment the league is experiencing the biggest surge in ratings and attendance in its history. Caitlin Clark's rookie season pulled in 3.2 million viewers for playoff games. Iowa was selling out arenas across the Midwest before she ever stepped onto a professional court. That level of cultural momentum shifts the balance of negotiating power. But here's the part Candace sees clearly that some players seem to miss. If you trigger a lockout at the very moment casual fans are finally paying attention, you run the risk of losing them for good. The timing of this CBA battle is possibly the worst imaginable for the league's long-term growth.
A little bit.
Things are getting a little spicy out here in the streets. Was it Nafisha? Nafisha went in on the commissioner. The CBA is set to expire soon. People are thinking the lockout may be looming. Stars like Caitlin Clark only making $75K. What is your thought process? Because you were, obviously Lisa and them started it. You had a heavy influence on carrying it to where it is today. And now, I feel lockouts only hurt us.
Now she's raising the coaching salary problem, which might be the most revealing element of this entire negotiation. Think about what she just pointed out. She has never seen a league where coaches out-earn the top players. Neither have I. In the NBA, elite coaches make around $12 million, while the superstar players pull in $50 million. That ratio makes sense. But in the WNBA, coaches are earning seven-figure contracts while the maximum player salary before this new proposal was just $241,000. That isn't a small discrepancy, it's a complete misalignment of what the league values. And when Candace asks how the league can afford to pay coaches but not the athletes who actually play the game, she's revealing the real truth. The problem isn't whether the money exists. The problem is how the league chooses to allocate it.
Where the WNBA is now, it's undeniable where sports in general are now, it's undeniable. But for so long, I think it's been that like, wait. And as women, it's like in this country, it's always wait.
Yeah.
It's always, okay, just, but now it's like with social media, with NIL. So if you're telling me you can't pay players over $1 million, but you're giving coaches, I've never heard of a league where the coach is paid more than the best player. I have never, and please correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know.
The best player on the team is going to make more than the head coach.
Yes.
So with all of these owners that are saying, or the WNBA in general that's saying.
Now look at how she ties this entire issue to the broader sports marketplace. She brings up nil valuations and social media reach because that's how modern athletes create real financial power. And she's spot on with the comparison. Paige Bueckers had more Instagram followers than Jalen Duren when both were entering their respective drafts. But here's where it gets messy. College athletes today can earn staggering nil money, in some cases far more than what the WNBA pays. Caitlin Clark made over $3 million in nil deals during her final season at Iowa. Her WNBA rookie salary was $76,000. That's the core of the problem. The league is now competing directly with college basketball for its own future stars. And that model simply cannot hold up over time.
Then how are you finding this for coaches is what would be my first question in the CBA negotiations. But I think there's got to be a tremendous amount of change because it's not only impacting the on the court salary, it's public. So people understand what you're playing in the WNBA for. So
the point she's making about transparency is absolutely pivotal. Before NIL existed, no one truly knew what college athletes were worth. Before social media analytics, there was no concrete proof that women's basketball commanded massive audiences. But now the data is out in the open for everyone to see. Caitlin Clark has 1.4 million Instagram followers. Angel Reese's podcast pulls in millions of downloads. WNBA playoff games on ESPN have outperformed NHL playoff broadcasts airing on the same network. The numbers are visible, undeniable, and impossible to dismiss. And that's exactly why this CBA negotiation has become so heated. For the first time ever, players can demonstrate their value with hard, indisputable data. The league can no longer lean on vague revenue arguments or outdated assumptions. The truth is measurable now, and the players know it.
Curry talks about it all the time, like Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, those were the dudes. And Steph has taken that and has added to his craft. And I think, I know Diana Taurasi's on this list. I think Caitlin Clark has done that because Diana...
Let's circle back to Candace's point about A'ja Wilson being a silky, effortless mid-range specialist. She wasn't just complimenting her game. She was highlighting how elite skill and marketability should translate into real compensation. Wilson won MVP. She led the league in scoring. She's one of the most dominant players the WNBA has ever seen, yet her max salary last season was only $241,000. Meanwhile, in the NBA, players who have never even sniffed an all-star appearance are landing $50 million contracts every year. The gap isn't about talent. It isn't about entertainment value. It's about structural differences, how the leagues divide revenue, how they build their salary caps, and what they choose to prioritize financially. And that's the core of this CBA battle. This moment is critical because the entire system of compensation, value, and visibility is on the table right now. The current CBA expires in October 2025, which means both sides are negotiating at the exact moment when the league should be preparing for its biggest season yet. Training camps are scheduled for April. The draft is set for March. But without a new deal in place, the league is staring down the possibility of a lockout right in the middle of the most crucial growth window in its entire history. Just look at the timing. Caitlin Clark just finished a rookie season that brought unprecedented national attention to the WNBA. Paige Bueckers is about to enter the draft as the most anticipated prospect since Clark. Expansion teams are being added. Media coverage is stronger than it has ever been. And yet the league could grind to a halt because there's no agreement on how players' salaries should be structured. It's a moment where momentum is peaking, and the entire operation is at risk of shutting down. The players are pushing for a 50-50 revenue split, matching what NBA athletes receive. The league, however, is offering far less, arguing that it's still not profitable. That's where Candace Parker's point about coaching salaries hits hardest. If the league isn't profitable, why are coaches pulling seven-figure contracts? Why is executive compensation outpacing player salaries? The optics are glaring. It gives the impression that the league values everyone except the very players who create the product fans pay to watch. This isn't just a negotiation over numbers, it's a reckoning over priorities and respect. There's another layer most people aren't talking about. The WNBA is owned by the NBA. They share ownership groups, arenas, and business operations. When the league claims the WNBA isn't profitable, it's looking at revenue in isolation. But what about the value the WNBA adds to NBA franchises? The shared sponsorship deals? The extra arena usage and event revenue? None of that gets counted as WNBA revenue, yet it clearly has financial impact. The players know it. Candace Parker knows it. And that's exactly why she's challenging the narrative that the money doesn't exist. She's shining a light on the hidden value the league conveniently ignores. On paper, $1 million salary sounds impressive, but the details tell a different story. The league removed chartered flights, forcing players to fly commercial, which raises serious safety and health concerns. Housing stipends were cut, meaning players have to cover expensive cities like New York or Los Angeles themselves, or take overseas contracts during the off-season just to make ends meet. These aren't perks. They are standard professional necessities every major league provides. The NBA doesn't make players pay for hotels on road trips. The NFL doesn't force players onto budget airlines. Yet the WNBA is proposing $1 million salary while skimping on basic team support. It's a classic case of optics versus reality, and the players see it clearly. This isn't a raise, it's a restructuring. Candace also highlights a point that often gets ignored: how WNBA salaries directly influence endorsement opportunities. Brands use league salaries as a benchmark for an athlete's market value. If a player earns $76,000, brands assume that reflects her worth and tailor endorsement offers accordingly. Raise that base to $1 million, and suddenly perceptions change. Your value increases, your leverage in negotiations grows, and the deals you can command are far bigger. This is why NBA stars can land shoe contracts worth more than their playing salaries. Their base salary signals premium status. WNBA players, with much lower league pay, simply don't have that same advantage. Next voice 13. Low league salaries aren't just unfair, they actively undermine players' ability to negotiate endorsement deals. The contrast with college nil earnings makes the issue even more stark. Paige Bueckers has earned over $2 million through nil deals during her college career. Yet when she enters the WNBA draft, her rookie salary will be around $76,000. She's essentially taking a massive pay cut to go pro. In nearly every other sport, turning professional means earning more, not less. But in women's basketball, some elite players are seriously considering staying in college another year because nil deals pay more than a WNBA rookie contract ever could. That's the system upside down. The league's future stars are weighing their options, realizing that staying in the amateur ranks can sometimes be more lucrative than turning professional. Then there's the looming threat of a lockout, a risk that hits players hardest. Candace's warning is spot on. When the NBA faced a lockout in 2011, players immediately lost game checks, while owners, cushioned by deeper resources, could absorb the blow. WNBA athletes don't have that safety net. Many rely on overseas contracts during the off-season just to make ends meet, and missing paychecks would be catastrophic. Yet the players are making a strategic calculation. Accepting a weak CBA now could lock them into unfavorable terms for a decade. Sometimes, enduring short-term hardship is the price of long-term progress. The real question is whether the league is willing to ignore the issue. In this interview, Candace is not just speaking, she's shaping the story for casual fans. Most people don't track CBA negotiations or grasp the intricacies of revenue splits and salary caps, but nearly everyone understands a coach's salary. It's simple. If the league can pay coaches well, it can pay players fairly. Candace is turning complex labor talks into clear arguments about fairness. It's a smart move, because public opinion can sway the balance. Fans siding with players puts pressure on the league, while a perception of player greed strengthens the league's hand. Even her focus on social media transparency is calculated strategy. Candace is emphasizing that the impact of women's basketball can now be measured objectively. Caitlin Clark's games drew 3 million viewers. Hard data from Nielsen, not opinion. Angel Reese's podcast has millions of downloads. Spotify numbers don't lie. When players can demonstrate their value with concrete metrics, it becomes much harder for the league to argue they aren't worth paying. The old claim that women's sports don't attract audiences no longer holds water. The numbers speak for themselves. The real question now is why this success isn't reflected in player compensation. This is a defining moment in WNBA history. The league stands at a critical crossroads. It can either harness the momentum from Caitlin Clark's breakout rookie season and the surge in media attention, or squander it through a lockout and labor dispute. There is no middle path. Cancel games, and casual fans vanish. Those who tuned in for the first time last season may never return. Algorithms stop promoting WNBA content, sponsors grow wary, and the progress of the past 2 years could vanish overnight. But a fair agreement and a full season could build on last year's triumph, potentially doubling the audience once again. The players know the power of this leverage, and they are ready to use it. The players know the league needs them more than ever, but they also recognize that the league could be stubborn enough to push a lockout anyway. That's why they are making their case publicly, through platforms like All the Smoke, reaching millions of basketball fans. Candace Parker isn't just negotiating with the league office, she's negotiating with public opinion. And from this interview, it's clear she's winning that battle. How will it end? Most likely with a compromise that nobody loves but everyone can live with. The players probably won't secure a full 50-50 revenue split, but the league will likely have to increase salaries beyond the current $1 million proposal. They'll likely restore some benefits, like chartered flights, and both sides will publicly claim victory while privately feeling disappointed. That's the nature of labor negotiations. But the bigger question is whether this fight could derail the league's momentum. Once casual fans move on, their attention is hard to regain. And right now, with Paige Booker entering the draft and expansion teams joining the league, the WNBA has an unprecedented opportunity to grow. The real question is whether the league and players are savvy enough to seize it. Should the players hold firm and risk a lockout, or accept the $1 million deal and renegotiate in a decade? There's no simple answer. Share your thoughts in the comments. For deeper WNBA analysis and behind-the-scenes coverage of the CBA fight, subscribe to our channel. We're breaking down every angle as it unfolds.